Welcome to another fantastic episode of Small Business Celebration Meat and Potatoes Live, the show where we do a deep dive into one particular subject with our guests. But we can't do meat and potatoes without our presenting sponsor and our location sponsor. At Oliver & Associates Real Estate, we know that buying or selling a home isn't just a transaction, it's a life moment. That's why they're committed to building relationships that last. They take the time to truly understand your needs, your dreams, your stories, so they can find you not just a house, but a home. Give Oliver Associates a call at 661-808-3444 or check them out at yourrealtor.us today. Today's Meat and Potatoes episode location is brought to you by Modern Gigi Gallery, an ultra-modern art gallery located in downtown Bakersfield, California, featuring the artworks of the modern abstract artist Johnny Ramos. Whether you're looking for artwork for your office, your home, or a postcard you can send as a thank you note, go to Modern Gigi Gallery located at 918th Street in Bakersfield, or give them a call at 661-374-7724 or email them at art@moderngigi.com today. Welcome to Small Business Celebrations Meat and Potatoes, and our guest this week is Mark Barnes, the owner of Minutemen Press of Bakersfield. Welcome to Small Business Celebrations Meat and Potatoes.
Well, thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
And you were on our show like 360 years ago or something like that. So for visitors who don't know who you are you, and what is it that you do?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Barnes. I own Minuteman Press, and we are a commercial printer for tangible marketing materials for companies to support the revenue driving efforts. And then we also print for more internal operational type of materials for companies with tags and labels and signage and things of that nature.
The reason we've got Mark here is, and if you've been watching Small Business Celebration, the main show, you know we've been talking about the digital evolution of business. We've been talking about AI this and AI that. But for some strange reason, people actually want to feel and touch things still. It's the weirdest thing. And that's the reason I wanted to have you come and join us, because this is an area of business that kind of gets lost now. But your business has been doing a bang-up job in this area. Describe for visioneers the services you provide to them in the tactile marketing industry.
Sure. So really, you know, the catchphrase I like to use is that we put brands in your hands or in the hands of your clients and leads, because I think that we as people, as humans, you know, we've grown up learning about the world and discovering the world through our hands, you know, ever since we're a baby. And really it goes, I think, from the moment we're born, or the moment rather that the doctor hands us back to our mothers,
right,
and puts us on skin to skin to have that skin to skin contact, you know, where a lot of physiological things start to happen in those moments, and then there's the bonding that happens in those moments. And really from that very point forward for the rest of our lives, the sense of touch and feel really drives just deep emotional learning, understanding, and that sort of thing. And so, you know, as we move through our lives, if companies are trying to get a message out to the marketplace, it really helps, just based on what we've done all of our lives with our learning process, to hold something, engage with it that way, and it just really helps drive understanding.
You probably know this better than I, but when somebody goes through the learning process, there is a certain percentage of, if you tell somebody something, they retain it. There's a certain percentage of, if they see something, they retain it. What's the percentage of somebody's learning scope when they actually hold something while they're learning it?
It's a great question. I don't actually have the statistics on that, but what I would say, just from my personal experience, and I'm assuming probably your personal experience, that typically I have found that people, myself included, tend to learn more or learn better by doing,
right,
or by engaging in whatever activity that might be. And simply just holding something is, to a degree, engaging with something, right? You've got it in your hands, it now has your attention, you're looking at it, you're starting to think about it, and then just through those neurons and just through that act, as I mentioned earlier, there's just a deeper sense of learning and understanding.
That tactile nature, it can span everything from something as simple as a postcard to bigger, more complicated, sophisticated things. And what are some of the things that you have seen that business owners have used well, especially for their sales team when communicating a product or service?
You know, I mean, as funny as it sounds, things like brochures and one-sheets are plenty.
Right.
I say plenty, but they're very effective. You know, this day and age, obviously, we've got a sales team and they're communicating a message, but then there's also these supplemental tools that they have that they can just use to reaffirm, that they can hand over to a client or a prospect. That prospect, if they don't buy today, can take that brochure, that one-sheet home. Maybe they can refer to it again. If they don't, then maybe they just see it multiple times, right? And now you're getting some of that repetitive, you know, touch points, if you will.
Right.
But so, really, I think it's just the simple fact that they're able to have something, to hold something, to refer back to it.
And what are some of those somethings that you guys produce?
Sure. So we produce, you know, everything from paper printed marketing collateral, such as, like I mentioned, brochures and flyers, but we also produce promotional items, any tchotchkes that you might find.
Well, you've got one sitting next to you.
So we produce things like tumblers and mugs and you know, stress balls, and really, you know, there's literally a million promotional items that are available to print. But any of these sorts of things are just other opportunities for you to put your brand in the hand of a client or a lead, and for them to engage with it, and just to drive another core memory.
One of the things that I've noticed is that every Wednesday, without fail, my mailbox is now getting more and more and more flyers, coupons, informational material, all this sort of thing. Clearly it's working.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Direct mail works.
Okay.
So it's funny. Speaking of statistics, one of the statistics that I have seen multiple times in this business is that direct mail marketing is the most trusted form of marketing.
Why is that?
Well, I think it goes back.
Because you can easily throw it away?
Well, honestly, I think it has something to do with a couple things. First thing is, most of us have grown up our entire lives receiving mail in the mail. Now, obviously, there's some that doesn't pertain to us, and we might refer to that as junk mail.
Right.
Or there's some that hits, oh, I was just thinking about that, and then I set it over here and save it for later when I'm ready to use it.
Right.
But also, I think there's a perception that comes with direct mail. I think the perception is that, for right, wrong, or indifferent, that the companies that are leveraging direct mail as a marketing means tend to be more reputable as companies, tend to be companies that might be stronger or around longer.
It's because they can put the money into doing printed material.
Sure, that's one way to look at it. But really, there's programs to make direct mail very, very cost efficient, and more importantly, for a high ROI.
Now, the thing about business owners is that we run the gamut from 18-year-olds to 70 plus, and same with the sizes of our business. And for what you offer, what are some of the ranges, or just what are some of the promotional material, paper, non-paper products for a wide variety of different sizes businesses that you guys offer?
I'm not sure I followed your question. Say that one more time.
Okay, so I've got the business, everything from the single business owner,
Sure.
solo entrepreneur, to the business owner that has 1,000 employees.
Right.
Okay, so you offer a wide variety of products. What kinds of paper materials, printed materials do you handle for the business owner who just needs something simple to the more complicated?
Sure, great question. So at the end of the day, every business is here to do one thing, and that's to grow, right? Now, if you take the startup or the sole proprietor, it's just that person and they're just getting off the ground, then obviously they might want something like business cards, maybe typically it's shirts and hats and business cards and that sort of thing at the beginning. And then it might grow into brochures, it might grow into flyers and that sort of thing. But generally, I would say for the early just startup business cards, shirts, and hats tend to be kind of the earliest things I get requests for. And then you move into a company that's maybe a little bit more mature in its life cycle, and then you're supporting marketing teams in their efforts. And a lot of times they might already have artwork and designs, and they might have a campaign that they have already put together internally. They may just simply send that over and say, hey, we need to send these direct mail pieces. We need a list for X, Y, and Z demographic, so we'll provide that list for them, and then we'll run those whether it's postcards or whether it's letters in an envelope. We'll produce those for them. And then maybe they're going to a trade show, and so we'll provide the trade show booths, the backdrops, the tablecloths, the promo items on the things themselves.
Sure,
Obviously, the collateral I've already mentioned with the flyers and that sort of thing.
Right.
And then, large, Fortune 500 companies and that sort of thing. They're obviously blue chip. They've obviously
like Amazon.
Well, like Amazon. So Amazon, by the way, thank you for bringing them up. Amazon does direct mail marketing. And
they're a digital company.
They are a digital company.
And they're doing catalogs?
And they're doing catalogs. In fact, so I found it super ironic, and I started thinking about this when I started personally receiving the Amazon catalog.
Right.
I have a couple young kids, and the first time I noticed it, it was basically a toy catalog that came to me just before Christmas time.
Right.
And I see this thing, and I'm like, what are the odds that Amazon, a digital company, is using print marketing to drive revenue, and how ironic that they're essentially the ones that put Toys R Us out of business.
Right.
And if you're old enough like me to remember the old Toys R Us catalogs, obviously they're replacing them with the Amazon catalogs.
Right.
And then, obviously same with Sears and Roebuck catalogs. And then next thing I know, I actually my wife got a woman's fashion Amazon catalog in the mail.
Wow.
And so they're really hitting their demographics with specific messaging, targeting these people with things that they obviously have the data. You're looking at things on their site, you're putting things in your cart, you're either checking out or you're not, but they know what you're interested in.
Right.
And now they can put this thing in front of you via your mailbox that they know that it's a hyper-targeted mail piece. It applies to you, you have interest in it, and all they have to do is get you to scan a QR code, and boom, now they've driven revenue.
How do you use printed materials to promote Minutemen Press of Bakersfield?
Great question. So we use it all, including direct mail. So we do a direct mail campaign every month. We have a deal of the month campaign every month. So we send the mailer out.
And who do you send these out to? Because I would tend to think that you've got this narrowed down on who your ideal client is.
Sure. So generally speaking, there's a couple things. You can either send it to your database, your house list,
right.
And generally speaking, if you're sending postcards or direct mail to your house list, you're going to get a higher response rate.
Okay. Because these are customers that have come into your business already.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. So there's already a relationship there, or it's already a targeted piece, meaning that they are already using these materials actively and regularly. So there's just naturally a higher response rate that way. Otherwise, you can target anybody you want. You can say, I want to just blanket the area around me. I want to do a 1 mile radius. And I don't care, I'm not going to discern if it's this size company or that size company or this industry or that. I want to hit every business in 1 mile around me.
Right.
And then we're able to actually, not only were we able to blanket the area nearest us, where when they search near me,
right.
It pops up, but also we're able to use a not necessarily well-known post office hack to drop our postage by 67% on every single mail piece. And that's huge because in the direct mail world, postage is the highest cost driver of the direct mailing process.
But if you can reduce that cost by a third.
2/3.
2/3,
yes.
Wow.
You can literally drop it to about 33% of the normal price of a stamp.
Wow.
And you can blanket these people. So you're really doing a lot of things. As I mentioned earlier, there are some tricks that we can do to really make it more economical and to provide a higher return on your investment. So that's something called every door direct mail. We refer to it as EDDM, so we use that as well.
What is the one thing every business owner should not do when they're doing a direct mail campaign? Because I'm sure you've seen a lot of things not to do.
Great question. Gosh, there's more than one. To pick the one, I would say what not to do. I would say make sure you have a way to contact you. Whether it's a website, a phone number, something. Now, there's more that I would add to that.
Right.
I would say make sure you have an offer. And a compelling offer, because really what you're doing, if you're mailing to a cold list, just a list that you had us pull of a certain demographic, your target customer, you're really mailing to them over time, right? Let's say we're doing a 3-month campaign, for example.
Right.
And that first mailer, or that first mailing rather, you might get some of the ones that were happening that just happen to be in the market right then and there. But you also, if you have a compelling offer, you might get the ones that are sitting on the fence to take action. So if you can, if you're willing to incentivize somebody to come try you out, which I encourage highly, because look, if you think about what it costs to get a new customer relative to the lifetime value of that customer, you might as well do everything you can to get them calling or get them in the door, right? And then retain that customer for the lifetime value aspect of it. But you really want to make sure you get a compelling offer on there.
Have your name, address, phone number, website.
Those would be the basics. Listen, I have to tell you, believe it or not, it happens almost daily in my business where something that you would think is very basic, very normal, is overlooked.
Everybody knows where our store is. Well, don't they?
Right, exactly,
No.
exactly. I mean, and because you know it, and because you're there every day, you just happen to think that everybody already knows these very fundamental things. But it's really important to have somebody review it, and we do that. And we also, we can prepare the mail piece for you, design it for you. We can send you the artwork as a proof for you to go through and approve, and we can have that back and forth to make sure it's dialed in perfectly, so you have a very successful direct mail campaign.
Now it's time for the fortune cookie game. Now, Visionaries, if you're not familiar with the way a game works, I have a sealed fortune cookie here in my hand. It is unopened. Our guest has to take the sealed fortune cookie, unseal it, break open the cookie, read the fortune out loud, and add "in my business" at the end, and then elaborate. Are you ready?
Do I get to eat the cookie?
Absolutely. In fact, we would prefer if you're eating the cookie while reading the fortune, because it's always more fun. I try to block all the crumbs, so.
I'll tell you what. I'll save it for later. How's that sound?
Fair enough. Fair enough. And the fortune is.
I will soon be rewarded for your. Excuse me. You will soon be rewarded for your best efforts in my business.
Nice. So, how will you soon be rewarded?
Well, I feel like I'm already seeing some of that come to play as we speak. Just today, one of our larger clients who has some segmented departments within the company, and they all kind of have their own, I think, vendors that they use.
Right.
Over the last week or so, today included, we've seen several of these others come to us. In fact, one just today said, "Hey, we're leaving our current vendor, and we need a quote on X, Y, and Z." So. I've been doing a lot of outreach,
right.
And I think we're starting to be rewarded for.
Congratulations! Well done, you. Wow. And now, Visionaries, now it's time for the person who is 180 degrees opposite of me in so many ways. If you've watched the main show, part of the reason why our show has gotten so much bigger is because she seems to think of the questions that I don't. And a lot of the questions come from a very different perspective. And so it's now time for Questions by Emily.
And Questions by Emily is sponsored by Cazador Consulting. Need elite talent to grow your team? Cazador Consulting Group in Bakersfield is your go-to partner in staffing and direct hires. They don't just fill jobs, they build lasting partnerships by listening to your needs and delivering top-tier customer service. At Cazador, mutual success isn't a goal, it's the standard. This is more than staffing, it's building your team so you can build your business. Visit CazadorConsultingGroup.com or call 877-800-4622. That's CazadorConsultingGroup.com or 877-800-4622, and let's build your future together. Hello, Visionaires, and welcome back to Questions by Emily. I'm Emily. I've got questions, and if you've got questions, feel free, drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat, asking Mark questions I've come up with back in the booth. So, hello again.
Hello again. I'm ready for my softball questions.
You ready? Everyone gets afraid of the questions I'm going to ask, but they're not that bad. I want to know, what's the weirdest thing you've printed on? Because you don't just do paper, right?
Wow. Yeah, that is a great question. The most bizarre thing we've printed on. You know, I honestly, I can't, you know, I'm going to say stress balls. I know that's common and whatnot, but it's really not an easy thing to print on these things. You know, there's a convexity to them, and the way print heads work is they shoot ink, they spray ink out, and the farther away you get from the nozzle, the more it sprays outward. So as you get on that onto that curve of a ball, you run the risk of getting a poor quality print. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I can't think of I know there's got to be something that's more strange than that.
Well, do you guys do like chapstick?
Oh yeah, we do. Absolutely, we do chapsticks all the time. Probably less convexity. I'm calling it convexity. Concavity would be that way. So chapsticks are not as difficult, but you know, balls, anything, golf balls, that sort of thing, can present some challenges.
And how often are you printing on something that isn't paper related?
Pretty often. Oh yeah, well there's always expos, there's always events, people want to have things to hand out, to give to people.
Lanyards, tote bags, water bottles.
These are all very standard, yes, absolutely. Regularly, I would say on a percentage basis, you know, it probably makes up 20% of the business, I'd say.
Oh, but people should go to you if they've got things other than print.
And that 20% is a lot. We just happen to have a lot of the legacy printing as well.
Okay. And I'm curious, after someone has approved it, and approved it, and approved it, and it still gets printed, and then finally, because isn't it always when you press publish that's when things come back? It's like, oh gosh, there's a glaring mistake. How do you deal with those customers? Because we all have those people in our businesses where there's nothing you can quite do to please them, and even after you feel like you've crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's.
Sure.
How do you guys deal with that?
Well, you know, it can be a tricky situation. You really have to massage it, but listen, there's a proofing process is in place to protect the client and us, because once we print something, we can't unprint it. Once we spend the labor time to cut it, to bind it, to drill a hole in it, to whatever it is that we're doing, perforate it, etc., we can't get that back. So we work really diligently on the front end, make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row to try and prevent this sort of thing. So it's at that point, it really becomes the client's responsibility. Now, just because that's the case doesn't make it any easier when this comes up. So generally speaking, if the client truly missed something, you know, look, we're here for the relationship. We're not here for, you know, a one and done. I mean, we've been here 40 years. I will typically offer a pretty significant discount on the reprint to just help them out. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to stick it to anybody.
You want people to come back.
Yeah, and listen, full disclosure, if it's our fault, we reprint it, and then, you know, that's just the way it is. And so, you know, we're willing to accept that responsibility. We ask that as a partner, that our clients, you know, would also be willing to accept the responsibility of making sure it's good to go before we actually print it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and how often are you doing designs in-house versus
Every
having
day.
the client? Really, every day?
Every day, yeah. So I've got 2 designers on staff. Every single, even when, I'll back up. This day and age, we all know about Canva, right?
Yeah.
And so Canva has convinced everybody that they are designers. And that's fantastic. Everyone can start what they have in mind, and then they can give it to us. Now, it's not as bad as it used to be, but Canva used to not have, it started for social media, right? And so, so you could do your designs and then post it, but it didn't have a print functionality tied into it. And print design is very different than just making something look good. There are specific things we have to do with colors and separations, and then we have to do certain layouts, and we have to add bleeds, and we have to add crop marks, and we have to do all these other.
Illustrator is probably what you're using.
InDesign is the preferred.
InDesign.
Yeah,
Okay.
Illustrator will work, but InDesign is the preferred software for print layout.
So if I give you a PDF file and it has a Canva design on it, do you say?
So fortunately, Canva has noticed the error of their ways, and somewhere along the line. So before this, we had a whole PDF on how to get your thing, out of Canva so that it's ready for print, or at least so that we can manipulate it easily. And so now, though, they've actually got, when you export from Canva now, it defaults to a PNG file, but there's like 1 or 2 little drop downs below that. It says export as a PDF for print, and that's the one you want to export as PDF for print. So that way we can get it and we can manipulate it and set it up right and use it. So
What's the difference between a regular PDF and one that's for print?
Well, it may not be vectorized or what have you. So really what we're looking for is a vector file. And that's a file that we can keep scale and different things, resolution as we change sizes or orientations or
So
aspect
if they ask
ratios.
for a whole wall to be done and you blow it up and it's pixelated.
That's right. That's not a vector file.
Not good.
Yeah. So if it were a vector file, then it would not be pixelated by the time we blew it up. And that's the difference.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So I'm curious too, on the flip side, because you do print marketing for your business.
Yes.
How much digital marketing do you do for your business?
Some. I do some. I'm not as good about it as I should be, but so it'll come in waves. But no, last year I had an intern. We did the Boys and Girls Club Summer Jobs Program last summer, and her entire job was to do our social media marketing and use AI in doing so.
Oh wow.
And so
What kind of AI are you using for that kind of a thing?
all sorts, like 20 different AI tools.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, why not? It's available to us. We might as well leverage it. What I don't care for are AI logos. You can tell they're AI.
Yeah.
Maybe in a year, maybe less than that, whatever. Maybe it'll get more refined. I'm sure it will. But for right now, and certainly last year, it was very obvious. But no, you can absolutely, you can ask ChatGPT, what are, 10 things, how print helps people, and now you've got basically 10 posts, right? And then you can go and do, use any of the other AI tools to supplement that. So.
Well, how much do you feel like you're educating people on why they need print nowadays?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do today. No, so it's really interesting. I feel like I'm on a quest to do just that. I just recently, in the last probably, I'd say 2 or 3 months, I thought of the skin-to-skin contact conversation. It just came to me, in the middle of the night.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about kids and touching a hot stove, for example, and they might touch that hot stove that time, but they probably won't ever touch it again, because now they have deep understanding, deep learning, right, through that sense of touch. Or if you think about the 5 love languages, one of the 5 love languages can be leveraged for marketing, and it's physical touch, right?
Yes.
So there's all these things that drive our sense of touch, and in most other marketing, digital solves for sound and visual. Television solves for sound and visual. Billboards solve for for visual. Radio solves for sound. We're solving for the sense of touch, visual, and maybe you've gotten a cologne or a perfume out of a magazine, opened it up, smelled it, rubbed it on yourself, maybe even made a purchase. There's a sense of smell as well that's also involved. In fact, Porsche did an ad where they used a sense of smell, and they had their Porsche was burning rubber, burning out, and you could scratch and sniff, believe it or not, the smell of burning rubber. I kid you not. So, so we're solving for the things that digital can't touch, pun intended.
Yeah, wow. I wouldn't have thought of a burning rubber.
Right.
But it makes sense.
And it's just part of the experience, and you're touching different emotions at that point, right? And people buy based on emotion. So and how do you get to those emotions is you touch on the different senses, and obviously storytelling, et cetera, but really focusing on the senses that helps emotional buying happen. And so there's a huge gap, and we're here to fill it.
So then when you're putting together, you're telling clients how to put together a good ad for print, what are you telling them to focus on? Because it's very easy, Canva example,
Sure.
to go everywhere and to try to get all the details into a piece of
Right.
paper. And you want to just boil it down to what's important.
Yep.
And still get pictures on it and all the necessary words. And so what is your maybe top 3 tips of how to target your ad specifically so that it hits all of the points that you're needing to hit and you've got the emotion without going overboard on the visuals?
Sure. I think it's just like a social media ad. I think you want to have a really good image, whether it's a stock image that really drives emotion. And then I think you want to have a really good offer. I think that's really critical. And then, I've got a list of 12 different things that really makes up a good marketing piece. But I think if you can grab someone's attention with the image, right, an emotional stock image, and a really good offer, you're going to have success just with that alone.
People put on their fridge and
Exactly.
call later. And
Yep.
yeah. And then for business owners, business cards. Now, I have seen some really good business cards. I've seen some very busy business cards. And then I've seen the person who's like, give me your phone and let me airdrop you. And then I'm trying to save their contact. And is it working? Is it working? We're going back and forth. What are your tips for business owners and business cards that will actually get someone to call you based on your business card?
Hand it out. I would say listen, I get the same thing, and people, sometimes will challenge me on business cards versus the digital cards or versus, that sort of thing. But look, if you're in business, you're probably networking in some fashion. And if you are networking, you feel pretty silly if you reach for a business card or if someone asks you for one and you don't have one to give them.
Yeah.
And then you kind of, at least for me, I would feel silly if I didn't have a business card to hand them. I would feel like I didn't come across as professional if I didn't have a business card at the ready. But if you're out there networking, and when I say networking, everybody networks differently. I prefer to only meet a couple people at a time and try to go deep in a conversation with somebody to really understand them and that sort of thing, and vice versa. And generally at the end of those, you've got enough of a start at a relationship to hand a business card, and then maybe it actually gets used. And if they don't use it, maybe then they refer somebody with it. Hey, call this guy. I just had a really good conversation with him at this event I was at. And now you're growing your lead base, right? So I think handing them out is critical. It's a marketing tool, right? And if you're a networker, if you're a salesperson, if you're out there in the community in any capacity, if you're going to any of these events or anything like that, I think it would behoove any business owner, any salesperson, anybody in business, regardless of your of what your job is. I think everybody should have a business card and hand it out.
They're not going away anytime soon?
We sell. It would blow your mind how many.
How much do you sell in business cards?
We sell so many business cards. I do not see business cards going away anytime soon. Certainly things could change, but there's just a tactile nature. There's a personalization when you're exchanging this with somebody. And again, as long as salespeople have a sales job to do, I think business cards are going to have a place.
Should your picture be on them? Is that professional, unprofessional?
Realtors like to put their pictures on their business cards. It's not for me, but that's just a personal opinion. I don't think anything's wrong with it. I just isn't. I'm not a realtor, so.
You got to know your industry.
Sure.
But they're not going away.
I would say they're not going away.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell the Visioneers before we conclude this episode?
Listen, if you're in business and you want to grow, and obviously you're marketing or you're not marketing but thinking about marketing, but even if you are marketing and you have been neglecting print marketing, for example, or maybe you think print marketing is dead, I just want to encourage you to give us a call at 661-323-7757 and allow us to help just talk to you about some of the options that are out there, some of the things that we can offer. And if you have any questions, we would love to answer those for you.
Phone number?
661-323-7757, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 p.m.
Address?
4500 Easton Drive, just behind Hobby Lobby and the Spectrum Fleet back there on Easton Drive.
Any social medias?
MMP Bakersfield. MMP Bakersfield. That's our Instagram.
This is the hardest quiz of the day.
Yeah, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, MMP Bakersfield.
Well, thank you, Mark. This has been lovely.
Thank you.
And thank you, Visioneers, for tuning in this week for our Live at 5 Meat and Potatoes. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to check out our main show. This week we had John Heath with Alpha Technologies. We talked about staying ahead in your leadership, how to motivate employees, and so much more. Definitely check that out. And make sure you keep in touch with our channel. Subscribe, because every Saturday we've got the main show going up, and every Monday we have our live. We'll see you next week for Meat and Potatoes Live at 5.